Mr. Gerke. Mr. Gerke. It doesn't, that's not work. As soon as we get seated, we'll begin. Okay, everyone ready? All right. Call this meeting to order. For all those that care to, please stand for an opening prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Let us pray. We come before you today with grateful hearts, thankful for the opportunity to serve the people of Republic. We ask for your guidance and wisdom as we make decisions that affect our community. Please grant us clarity, unity, and integrity in all that we do. Help us to lead with compassion, humility, and a spirit of cooperation. In your name we pray, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So thank you everyone for being here this evening. We have a attendance this evening, so I'm very thankful for that. Before we get started with our next item, the proclamation, a formal reading of tonight's proclamation, I want to take a moment to speak from the heart about the tragedy that struck our region just a week ago. As many of you know, Republic is a unique community, and part of our city sits within Christian County. When a heartbreak of this magnitude occurs there, it isn't just happening to our neighbors, it is hitting very close to home. We are mourning the loss of two dedicated law enforcement officers, men who were not only protectors of our streets, but also providers for a family, sons and brave Army veterans. We are also lifting up the two wounded deputies who are beginning a long road to recovery. The funerals may have taken place, but for the families and for law enforcement community, the healing is only just beginning. So tonight, the City of Republic stands with them. And with that, I would like to read the following honorary proclamation. Honoring the fallen deputies of the Christian County Sheriff's Office and recognizing the officers wounded. Whereas the safety and well-being of our community are safeguarded each day by the dedicated men and women of law enforcement who place themselves in harm's way in service to others. And whereas the Christian County Sheriff's Office has long stood as a symbol of courage, professionalism, and unwavering commitment to justice and public safety. And whereas on this solemn occasion, our community mourns the tragic loss of two Christian County deputies, Deputy Gabrielle Ramirez and Deputy Michael Hislop, who made the ultimate sacrifice while faithfully carrying out their sworn duty to protect and serve. And whereas these fallen deputies exemplified honor, bravery, and selflessness, and their service and sacrifice will forever be remembered with gratitude and respect by the citizens of Christian County and the City of Republic. And whereas we also recognize and honor the law enforcement officers who were wounded during this incident, acknowledging their courage, their resilience, and the steadfast commitment to ensuring the safety of others despite grave personal risk. And whereas the families of the fallen and wounded officers bear an immeasurable burden, and our community extends its deepest sympathy, prayers, and unwavering support during this time of profound loss and recovery. And whereas moments such as this remind us of the extraordinary courage required by those who serve in law enforcement and the debt of gratitude owed to them by the communities that they protect. Now therefore, I, Eric Franklin, Mayor of the City of Republic, Missouri, do hereby proclaim this day as a time of remembrance and honor for the fallen Christian County deputies and recognition and gratitude for the officers wounded in the line of duty. I further call upon the citizens of Republic to join in honoring their sacrifice, to support law enforcement and their families, and to reflect upon the enduring values of service, courage, and unity that define our community. And testimony whereof, I hereunto set my hand and affix the seal of the City of Republic this 3rd day of March 2026. So this was our proclamation for those deputies, and we just wanted to send a message to those deputies and their families and in Christian County and throughout our community that we do stand behind our law enforcement, and we are so very thankful for the services that they provide for us as citizens on a daily basis. So thank you. So moving on to citizens' participation. At this time, we will open citizens' participation. Do I have anyone in the audience that would like to participate in citizens' participation? Okay, seeing how there is none, we will move on. Moving on to our consent agenda, I welcome the council to ask any questions or comments about items number 2 through 5 on the agenda. Seeing that there are none, I need a motion and a second for the approval of the consent agenda. Got a motion and a second. All of those in favor? Aye. All of those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Board, commission, and committee schedule. The Board of Adjustment meeting for March the 5th, 2026 has been canceled. We have a planning and zoning meeting on March the 9th, 2026. We have a city council meeting on March the 17th, 2026. We have a city council meeting on April the 7th, 2026. And our upcoming city council workshop on April the 14th, 2026 has been canceled. Moving on to new business and first reading of ordinances. Item number 6, I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 26-07 by title only, please.
Motion. Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All of those in favor?
Aye.
All of those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Laura will read the ordinance by title, please.
An ordinance of the City Council authorizing execution of an agreement with the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for Transportation Alternative Program, TAP, funding for engineering of sidewalk gaps along Hine Street.
Thank you, Laura. And we've got Miss Stephanie Fitzpatrick Duncan here this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Stephanie Fitzpatrick Duncan, project engineer. I have tonight an ordinance that would authorize the city administrator to enter into a program agreement with MoDOT, the Missouri Department of Transportation, for TAP funds for engineering of 3 sidewalk gaps along Hine Street. This program agreement with MoDOT authorizes the city to receive up to $246,906 for engineering services related to the filling of 3 designated sidewalk gaps. The 3 identified sidewalk gaps along Hine Street are between Butternut Avenue and Main Street, Oakwood Avenue and Franklin Avenue, Lincoln Avenue, and the Wilsons Creek Boulevard, or Route ZZ. The final planning, surveying, and engineering documents created by this project will enable the city to apply for funds for the construction of the sidewalk in the near future and to accurately budget for the completion of the project. The goal of the project is to improve pedestrian access and safety along the Hine Street corridor. Staff is recommending approval of this program agreement.
Thank you, Stephanie. Do we have any questions, comments from City Council? Mr. Gerke.
So the capital budget of the 116,000, is that required, or that's just the amount that's left over? And is there any other requirements or obligations for the to receive the 246,000?
Yes, this match is an 80-20 grant, so 80% will be grant funds, and then the city is responsible for a 20% match. So that 100,000 number that you see that we have budgeted for 2026 is over the 80-20 match that we're anticipating seeing. But as we go out for engineering RFQ and begin negotiating with design firms, we wanted to have flexibility in our 2026 budget.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gerke. Do we have any additional questions? Mr. Harder.
Will there be any right-of-way issues for the people who live out there already, or?
Part of the evaluation of this engineering will include right-of-way evaluation and what we need to construct the sidewalk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harder. Mr. Fields.
So that last section by ZZ, isn't there already an approved subdivision for that?
There are some subdivisions adjacent to the area. The parcel directly adjacent to ZZ Highway is not currently been constructed, but if future development comes in that completes portions of the sidewalk, then those would not be constructed by our grant funds.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. Do we have any additional questions from City Council? Questions, comments? Okay. Thank you, Stephanie, for the presentation this evening. And please remember, City Council, to get with staff if we have any additional questions for the meeting. Moving on to item number 7. I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 26-08, title only, please. Got a motion and a second. All of those in favor? Aye. All of those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0-0. Laura will read the ordinance by title, please.
An ordinance of the City Council approving budget amendment number 2 to the budget for fiscal year 2025.
Thank you, Laura. And we've got Mr. Ford here this evening.
Good evening, Bob Ford, again. Good to see you. As you know, the Missouri State Statute 67-.01 requires a balanced budget, as well as the Republic Municipal Code, Section 135, states that no expenditure shall be made that will exceed the total expenditures approved by council for a specific fund, and those expenditures are approved through the normal budgeting process. So given that, during the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2025, the wastewater fund expended an additional $5.75 million in capital expenditures for the wastewater treatment plant project beyond what we had budgeted for that project. However, this is not an incremental expenditure. It does not increase the total expenditures for the wastewater treatment plant project, but is merely a timing issue. The $5.7 million in addition for fiscal year 25 are expenditures that were accelerated for work that was planned and budgeted in 26 that actually got accomplished in 25. Therefore, the wastewater treatment plant project capital expenditures increased by $5.7 million in fiscal year 2025, but we'll also see a decrease in the same amount for fiscal 26. So when we come back with a budget amendment for the fiscal year 2026 budget, probably in May, you'll see a corresponding drop on the wastewater treatment plant project expenditures for 26. And then as a reminder, these expenditures are funded by drawing down on the city's approved SRF debt as the funding source. So just providing sort of a schematic, on the left, the operating budget, you can see there is no change on the operating budget for 25. Revenues and expenses that were approved in the budget, no change there. Net operating earnings still at $4.6 million. The only change that we're requesting is on the capital budget side, and you'll see an increase of expenditures on the use side in the wastewater treatment plant project, or the wastewater treatment fund itself, and that's $5.75 million being funded with an additional $5.75 million of draw on the SRF debt in 25. Net, no change to the project. Net, we're not borrowing any more money. It's a timing of when the expenditure is occurring. Staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Do we have any questions from City Council? Mr. Gerke.
Mr. Ford, so the accelerating, the timetable for completion, is that going to change on there, or is this just more of a timing of cost?
More of the timing of the cost and more of the timing of how we budgeted in 25, to be quite candid. There will be no acceleration of the completing the project. We still plan for the project to go live in the fall of next year.
And then to clarify, with budget overall, we're not anticipating any changes from the original proposal.
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Gerke. Do we have any additional questions, comments from City Council? Okay, seeing there are none. Thank you, Mr. Ford. And it looks like we also have a second reading, last call. Any questions, City Council? Okay. Pursuant to 3.10F of the Charter, staff is requesting a second reading of this ordinance during tonight's meeting. I need a motion and a second to approve the second reading of Bill 26-08 to be held during tonight's meeting.
Motion, second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? All of those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to item number 8. I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 26-09 by title only, please. Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? All of those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0. Laurel, read the ordinance by title, please.
An ordinance of the City Council amending Title I, Government Code, Chapter 110, Administration Policies, Article 8, Authority to Enter into Contracts Policy, Section 200, Persons authorized to enter into contracts on behalf of the city to align purchasing and contracting authority with the city's purchasing policy.
Thank you, Laura. And we've got Mr. Ford here this evening.
Good evening again. As you know, and would expect, a purchase begins many times with an execution of a contract, an invoice, a work order. What this ordinance is doing is syncing up those who can sign on behalf of the city, given the authority granted by title in each tier of the purchasing policy that was approved 2 weeks ago. Furthermore, this ordinance expressly incorporates the purchasing policy into the section of the code, so future amendments automatically carry through and include the standard legal references required for compliance with state law and the charter. Furthermore, the ordinance organizes the distinction of budgeted versus non-budgeted into its own subsection for clarity, and clearly defines when the city council approval is still required to avoid any unintended expansion of contracting authority. Finally, this ordinance restates the purchasing agent's role and includes a standard conflict clause to ensure that long-term consistency between the code and the purchasing policy are met. So, in addition to syncing up the contract section of the code with the purchasing policy that was approved a couple of weeks back, in addition, we're doing some work around. For instance, Justin is doing some work. The city attorney is doing some work in preparing a policy and defining on what needs prior legal review before a signature can be applied. And in addition to that, there's additional work going on where many times we'll have an invoice or a work order, and it's a standard document. There are some additional legal components that we would like to see incorporated in that document. And for those documents not requiring legal review, the city attorney, specifically Justin, is working on preparing an invoice work order addendum to be signed and attached and executed anytime we would sign an invoice. So for instance, things like the city requires the vendor to have a certain level of insurance or workman's comp insurance in order to come onto our property and do work for us. That addendum would just be attached to the work order. Because many times we don't need full legal review. We just need to have, in fact, that addendum attached to the work order or the invoice to move forward. So in a nutshell, we're syncing up the contract section with the purchasing policy that's been approved, and staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Do we have any questions from City Council? Mr. Gerke.
So the incorporated approved budget, incrementals like what we just went over, something like that, where it would change the budget, even shifting from year to year, would still require approval. That wouldn't affect that, correct?
So if there is, let's use the example that we just went through, we would need to bring a significant change like that back to council. Remember that the purchasing policy that was approved gave the city administrator and the chief financial officer authority up to $100,000. But also, if the budget is the overriding or the controlling document. So if something is budgeted in the budget and let's just say it's an item for $500,000. If it's been approved in the budget process, we're not going to bring that $500,000 item back to council because you've already approved it.
Then if it would carry over to the next year's budget.
It wouldn't carry over automatically. We would have to definitively put it in the next year's budget, but we would.
Thank you, Mr. Gerke. Do we have any additional questions from City Council? Okay, seeing that there are none. Thank you very much, Mr. Ford, for presentation on that one. And for City Council, please remember to get with staff before the next meeting with additional questions. Moving on to item number 9. I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 26-10 by title only, please.
Motion?
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. All of those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0-0. Laurel, read the ordinance by title, please.
An ordinance of the City Council amending Title 8 Fees, Chapter 805 Fee Schedule, Section 805.100, Utility Administration of the Municipal Code of the City of Republic, Missouri. Thank
you, Laura. And we've got Mr. Ford again here this evening. Kind of camped out there tonight.
I'm just going to stay here till we're done.
Yeah.
I won't be redundant because we've just spent some time going through this during our workshop, but I do want, for those folks that didn't attend the workshop, I'd like to hit a couple of high points. One of the things that we talked about earlier this evening, it was why did we raise rates in 2025? And remember, we did this so for a number of reasons. I'm not going to articulate every one of the items that we have here, but we've identified a kind of a list of why we did what we did and why staff recommended action in 2020, back in 2025, and why council approved it. What we did at that point in time is we, for 25, 26, and 27, we raised the base rate and the surcharge. The base rate in 25 was raised 94% from $8.66 to $16.76, and you can see the increase on the surcharge from 408 to 708, et cetera, for 26 and also for 27. The water rate increases and how it impacts our citizens is a big topic of our discussion tonight. And Republic citizens will see their water bills increase 300% or more from 2023 to 2027 based on the current fee structure that is in place. So we've identified here that in 25, we saw an increase of 94% in the base charge, while the surcharge went up 74%. I did a number of sensitivities where I looked at different usage levels, 500, 1,500, 4,000, and 10,000, and then calculated what their water bill would be at those different levels. And you can see that somebody uses 10,000 gallons a month, their bill would go from 24 when it was $43.34 to $76.94 in 25, or 78% increase. But because the base charge was raised greater than the surcharge, those people that only pay base charge rates saw their rates increase 94%. And then you can see what the current fee structure has for 26 and also for 27. Some highlights of our customer statistics. Residential customers represent 91.7% of our total customers, but only use 67% of the water. And within that context, residential customers, the low-end user, those that use 1,500 gallons or less per month, represent 13.6% of our total customers, but they only use 2.1% of the total gallons used, whereas commercial customers are a small component as a percentage of our total customer base, 8.3%, but commercial customers use over 30% of our water. And specifically within that category, those tier 5 customers, those customers that use more than 15,000 gallons a month, represent only 2.3% of our total customers, but use almost 30% of the water. So given those large users consume a disproportionate amount of our total gallonage, whether it's a residential or commercial customer, shouldn't they pay the same or possibly more per gallon as a small user? So water rates are, once again, as we talked about earlier, are only part of the story. Customers are billed for both water and wastewater on the same bill. And so I've identified here with our current fee structure that is currently in place for 2025 and 2026, what the water rate, what the water bill would look like at different usage level, as well as the wastewater bill at those same usage levels. And you can see in 2025, the total bill would be, for somebody using 10,000 gallons a month, would be $268 and change per month, as opposed to in the prior year, it was just slightly over $200. However, staff feels that we should balance rate increases and the impact to our customers a bit more and more in line with their concerns and their needs, while balancing that against the capital needs of the city. So our recommendation is to flatten the slope of the water rate increase curve, which means we would propose to hold rates steady in 2026. So no increase over 2025's rates, steady, predictable, and methodical rate increases thereafter. Our customers should expect rate increases. It's the only way that we can fund the growth on the operating and the capital side of our business. And for 2027 and beyond, we're going to explore alternative methodologies so that the rate impact and how we deploy those rates would impact all users equitably, as opposed to one group paying a higher rate per gallon than another group. But we'll bring that back to you as part of the budget process this fall. So specifically at this point, we're just recommending one thing, and that is hold 25 rates constant into 26. In that context, we're proposing to reduce the 10-year capital improvement plan, which currently has $70 million of capital identified for the water fund over the next 10 years. We're proposing to reduce that to $45 million. Recognize that we've made very little capital improvement over the last 20 years in the water fund. If we do that, what we're talking about is lowering the revenue forecasted for the water fund. And therefore, in order to execute our 10-year capital improvement plan, we'll need to do a tax-exempt bond offering. As we've said earlier this evening, within the context of doing a bond offering, we have 3 years to expend those funds, so we would not borrow all $45 million at one time. We'd probably do it in multiple tranches. Say we might do $30 million up front and then $15 million, say 5 years later. What I've shown here is the recommendation that we've talked about is that holding the water rates constant in 26 compared to 25. We're still going to have a rate increase, however. Wastewater rates will increase as planned. And so I'm just showing you here that the total bill, for instance, let's use our 10,000 gallon user again. Her total bill for water is $76.94, and for wastewater is $191.65, for a total, as we talked about earlier, of $268 and change. That bill is going to grow in 26, but only because of the wastewater growth in the wastewater rates. We will hold the water rates constant. Staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Do we have any questions from City Council? Mr. Gerke?
And you referenced it, I know we just had a workshop on there, that's available, that goes into more detail.
That is correct.
Thank you, Mr. Gerke. Yeah, great point, too. There was a lot of great questions in that workshop that were, yeah, not to keep us here till 9 o'clock tonight, but a lot of great discussion, a lot of great comments, and all available on YouTube. Subscribing to our YouTube channel. Any additional questions from City Council? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ford. Thank you, Council, for all the great questions. So, moving on to new business, we have item number 11. I need a motion and a second for the second reading. Oh, well, I did it again. Thank you, Council. Moving on to item number 10. I need a motion and a second for the first reading of Bill 26-11 by title only, please. All those in favor? All of those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0-0. Laura will read the ordinance by title, please.
An ordinance of the City Council authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to finalize, secure a $2 million line of credit, LOC, with Arvest Bank to fund short-term cash flow for water improvements as a special limited obligation payable solely from water fund revenues.
Thank you, Laura, and we've got Mr. Ford here to give us an overview.
This is probably the last one for me. So, line of credit as a bridge loan. So with the flattening of the slope of the water rate increases that we just discussed both in the workshop as well as just 3 minutes ago, the city will need to borrow funds in order to execute its $45 million capital improvement plan. The proposed line of credit is to be dedicated to the water fund's use only, and whose purpose is to act as a bridge facility or a bridge loan, i.e. to fund the initial phases of that $45 million capital improvement plan before we've actually been able to execute a special obligation bond offering. It'll take us some time to prepare, to work with an investment banker to get that offering into the market. And in order to execute the portion in 2026 that's part of the 10-year capital improvement plan with a reduction in revenue, because we're recommending holding those water rates constant in 26, we may need to dip into a line of credit in order to facilitate that short-term need and fund that short-term need. Money access through the line of credit is specifically for the water fund capital improvements and must be repaid from the revenues generated from the water fund rate increases. The LOC will not be used for any cash flow gaps for any of the city governmental funds. So we can't use it if we've got a shortfall in Parks and Rec, we can't use it there. If we've got a shortfall in the general fund, we can't use it there. It is specifically dedicated to the water fund. Additionally, the city may not utilize general funds or rely on its full faith and credit to secure or make payments on the LOC, which would be deemed indebtedness of the city under Article 26A of the Missouri Constitution, and that would require a vote of the people. So once again, it's an LOC, it's a bridge facility, it's strictly for timing, and once whatever the amount that we do in a tax-exempt bond offering, once that is issued, we would use that bond offering to repay the line of credit. The reason why we chose a line of credit as opposed to a term facility is that we don't have to advance the entire amount up front and then have that money sit in the bank and draw interest at a lower rate than what we're paying on the interest expense side. So we will draw as we need it. If we don't need it, we won't draw it. And once we issue the tax-exempt bond offering, we will repay the line of credit. So the terms of the line of credit, it's floating at the prime rate less 50 basis points, with a floor of 5%. We'll renew it every 12 months, and we'll have a $500 origination fee. Staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Do I have any questions from City Council? Mr. Gerke?
Mr. Ford, so to clarify, if we're going to utilize the line of credit for an expenditure, it would have to come to be approved before it was used, correct?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
If you were going to utilize the line of credit for the short-term funding, that would need to be approved for new expenditures.
Well, if it's for a budgeted item, we would draw on the line of credit without coming back to council. If it's for a non-budgeted item, we would need to come back. Yeah.
I'd recommend to maybe in the negotiation stages, if there are requiring a floor on there, a lot of times you're able to have a ceiling too. It's a floating rate. I know it'd be a short-term gap, mostly likely paid back by a bond. We'd have a plan to pay that off, but that might be something to look at too. If we're having a floor, I don't think rates would move that much, but that might be look at having a cap also.
I can talk to Arvis about putting a cap in place.
Thank you, Mr. Gerke. Do we have any additional questions from City Council? Okay, seeing there are none, thank you, Mr. Ford. Um, So last chance for city council. Any questions before moving on to final passage? Okay, so we will move on to final passage. I now need a motion and a second for the final passage of Bill 26-08, please. Did I do? I'm sorry. It's this microphone in my face, I think. So that was, okay, we were number 10, okay. My apologies again. Mr. Ford, thank you very much. We had no more questions from city council. Make sure if we have any additional questions that we would get with staff before our next meeting. Moving on to new business and second reading of ordinances. Item number 11, I need a motion and a second for the second reading of Bill 26-8 by title only.
Motion. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All of those in favor? Aye. All of those opposed? Are there any abstentions? Motion carries 7-0-0. Laura, read the ordinance by title, please.
An ordinance of the City Council approving budget amendment number 2 to the budget for fiscal year 2025.
Thank you, Laura. Does city council have any questions or comments before moving on to final passage? We've still got Mr. Ford here if we do. Okay, seeing that there are none, we will move on to final passage. I now need a motion and a second for the final passage of Bill 26-08, please. I've got a motion and a second. We're now going to take a roll call vote on our. Motion carries 7-0-0. There is no other business or resolution, so we will move on to reports from staff. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a brief update tonight. The first thing I want to mention is just really an acknowledgement of our earlier proclamation and the tragedy of the Christian County deputies. And it's difficult to put into words the impact that has on a community and for the families. And it's really a sobering reality, what it takes and what the calling is for our public safety officials and law enforcement. And so we just want to thank them, and our hearts and thoughts and prayers, of course, go out to the community. And I appreciate council for adopting that proclamation and honoring them. Next, I do, on a little bit lighter note, I want to welcome Gary back. It's exciting to see you here, sir. Happy to see you upright, and so welcome back. I want to bring up the public hearing we had last week regarding our corridor. We had a really great attendance, over 50 people. We appreciate the work of MoDOT staff. We look forward to getting that project completed. It'll be a process, but I know it's really anticipated, but we're excited for it to get. The next item, the new City Hall ribbon cutting. We'll have our open house Wednesday, March 18th from 2 to 4. So I'm looking forward to that, celebrating our place here and having an opportunity to meet with citizens. That'll be a great time. So looking forward to that. I want to mention too that we're working on a communication plan. There's more information to come. We talked about it tonight about in our workshop with our rates, our utility billing rates, our new billing system coming up. So some changes on the way. I know how important it is to the community and to council up here and our staff, and so just mentioning that we'll have more communication to come on that. And the last item, our next workshop, 5 p.m. April 7th, before our council meeting. That concludes my report, Mayor.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Harris. Do we have any reports from city council? Mr. Updike.
I had some spent some time in Jeff City at the MML conference up in Jeff City. I met with several area representatives, including Senator Trent. Also attended a Turning Point USA rally at the Capitol on Wednesday. I did not have any time to meet with Mr. Davidson with his schedule being busy and under time constraints. Secondly, the town of Wilson's Creek, which a lot of people don't know, which is located on the battlefield, has been tentatively approved as a county historical site by Greene County Historical Sites Board. If you're out there at the battlefield, it's generally going to be at stop 5. So if you want to go out there and wander around, all means. I also attended the state high school wrestling championships in Columbia. I want to give a congratulations to freshman Mabel Rogers, finishing her freshman year as a Class 2 state champion while going undefeated at 42-0. Another freshman, Savannah Bratton, finished her first varsity year, finishing in 4th place in the state of Missouri. Senior Millie Waterman finished her career in 2nd place, pinning her opponent in 49 seconds. As a team, the girls varsity finished in the top 10 in the entire state for the first time ever, finishing 9th. And also competing in the tournament was Miss Shades and Miss Shade on the girls varsity team. And I believe Miss Rogers is the first ever individual state champion for the City of the Republic High School. And also want to congratulate Ethan Montel and Keaton Overcast in the tournament. Keaton finishes his high school career as a 2-time state medalist, finishing in 5th. Excuse me. Ethan is a junior and had a quite impressive showing up there, and he'll be one of the ones to watch that will anchor the team next year for the wrestling program. So, big congrats to the high school girls team for doing an amazing job in their year.
Thank you, Councilman Rucker. Congratulations to all of them as well. It sounds like you've been very busy. A little bit. Thank you very much. Any additional reports from the council?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Campbell?
I know it's been almost a month, but I want to give a shout out to the Parks Department for the father-daughter dance. I think it's my 20th or 21st one to attend. However, Chris, if you can, for your staff, it's my understanding that they had full games the next morning pretty early, that they had to have all that cleaned up. It's very, very impressive, the dedication that your team has for that. And as a citizen and a participant, thank you for putting on such a great event. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Do we have any additional Well, thank you very much for everyone to share something tonight. I really do appreciate that. Before we adjourn tonight, I just wanted to say thank you, my sincerest appreciation for all of our workshops in February. I know City Council and the city staff has done a lot of heavy lifting here the last month, last couple months in between our BNSF crossing survey, finalizing for those